Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name's Joshua Ross. I'm the enrollments manager here for the fourth row programs in collaboration with LSE and specifically the Data Analytics Career Accelerator. Love these sessions. It's an Ask Me Anything session with one of our graduates or alumni, Arthur Hilton, who I'll be welcoming in a couple of minutes to hear his story and importantly, allow you, the audience, to ask any questions that you have. Before we start, I just want to outline a little bit of housekeeping. I see there's a bit of interaction here in the chat, which you're welcome to do, but importantly, you'll see the Q&A function at the bottom. This is where you post your questions, and then myself and Arthur will discuss those in the second half of the webinar. Post them whenever you like. We'll get to them. The more, the better. So don't be shy, please, with those. You'll see in the chat, we'll post some links towards the end and throughout, potentially, eligibility surveys, meeting links to book with enrollment advisors should you want. So keep an eye on that as well. But otherwise, let's jump in and get moving. So before we welcome Arthur, just a very brief overview of the program. So the Data Analytics Career Accelerator, it's a careers first 6-month online program. And what we look to do is take you from your current knowledge base in data analytics. Potentially you'll have little to no knowledge. And we look to take you to the level where you can look at data analyst roles or any roles that incorporate forms of data. How we do that, it's very holistic in nature. So you can see the program has been built and designed by the London School of Economics and Political Science, that them being a top 30 university in the world, uniquely in collaboration with industry. For this program, that's Tableau and GitHub, and making sure and hopefully giving you the confidence that what you learn is practical and industry aligned. Throughout the program, you'll complete 3 individual projects. So that's how you learn all of the in-demand skills and tools, and that's how you're assessed. And then at the end, there's a group employer project where you'll take everything you've learned and apply it to a unique business situation from a partner of ours. Some partners that we've worked with in the past that you'd recognize, Bank of England, ThoughtWorks, Zumo, there's a whole range. Alongside that, executive style career coaching that goes throughout the entirety of the program. So again, just giving you that idea that we are supporting you in all facets of what you're looking to achieve. You can find that in the live chat. We've got the brochure. You can book a time with an EA. We can talk to you about all of those things. But today's really about hearing from Arthur and his experience and hearing the inside of someone that's done it and seen some great results. Arthur, if you're ready, please join.
Good evening, good morning, everyone, wherever you are in the world. It's good to be with you and looking forward to answering your questions.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is truly a global webinar today. Arthur's in Adelaide in Australia. I'm here in Melbourne. And when Arthur did the program, he was in the UK and relocated. And I know we speak to many students that have a potential desire after completing the program to relocate. So I'm sure that'll be a question and a topic that we'll cover. If you don't mind, a bit of an introduction about who you are, Arthur, and your background.
Yeah, so I will start at university. I went to university in East London, Queen Mary University. I did physics, pretty much to be transparent because I was good at it at school. Graduated, decided, wasn't sure what I wanted to do, so I got a job which was sort of a hybrid between account management and business analyst-y sort of role. So there's a bit of Excel, there was liaison with clients, there was SQL. Year and a half in, I thought this is not for me. It was more based out in sort of Kent area, so I decided to lean into London. I got a job in global mobility, so I was a cost of living analyst and looked at the changes in prices around the world. I was a tax research analyst, so I looked at the different sort of tax liabilities in different countries and creating programs to sort of track moving from country A to country B. And then I got my dream job, which was actually gathering cost of living data around the world. So that was to travel all over the world, go to different countries, grab the data, and type it up to be fed to the first team that analyzes it. And then the pandemic happened, and that put that whole plan on massive ice. Um, and eventually, after a few rounds of lockdowns and releasing from lockdowns and lockdowns again, we were allowed to travel. And I finally got my teeth stuck into this job that I really, really wanted, and I hated it. So I kind of got to this point where I thought, I've had a few false starts in my career, and I want to sort of lean into looking into why that happened. I did some careers coaching. Um, and sort of concurrently to this, a lot of my friends who had gone into data analytics and data science, they were doing pretty well for themselves. And I thought, there's no good reason that they can, have the success and have this thing and I can't. Um, so yeah, that was kind of the point that got me to the point of applying for this program.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty clear as to your motivations as to why you wanted to upskill.
Mm,
Um, I just wanted to touch on, I want to understand a little bit more about, in the end, why you chose the data analytics career accelerator, but you touch on something that I found interesting and relevant was, yeah, you started your degree, you got a little bit of exposure to Excel and SQL. Um,
hmm.
but where did you think prior to starting the program, your kind of skill level was with um, hands-on technical skills of data? Were you a novice,
Yeah.
immediate? Where were you at?
So it's tough to self sort of categorized like that because I think I find everyone I was in my head I was a novice. I didn't know anything. I was terrible. That's how I sort of believed it in my own head, but perhaps compared to someone who says they're an expert, I was maybe equal. To sort of put it into, black and white, here's what I could do, here's what I couldn't. I was pretty good at Excel. I sort of had pushed it in my own personal time, like running macros and stuff and sort of spreadsheets that pull data this way and that way, and it's quite like things you can do on Python quite quickly. I was doing in Excel much more sort of slowly and laboriously. With SQL, I was probably at the novice level, I would say, where I would just sort of touched on doing joins, but didn't quite get there. It was mostly just like working with databases, nothing to do with joining them up or anything or schemas like that, but just maybe I could understand joins, but I'd never really done them. Um, but I think it was easy to learn because I sort of had seen it before. The foundational principles, having done a STEM degree, were there, but the actual hands-on were not quite there.
Yep, yep. And just for everyone's knowledge, if you're not aware, there's three ways to gain entry into the program, just for context. So, if you have completed at least an undergraduate degree and you've had exposure to one STEM subject, anything related to data or numbers, that could deem you eligible. Otherwise, we can look at your work experience and what involvement you've had relating to data. It doesn't mean that your role has to have been a data analyst, but some involvement with that. And finally, the third pathway, there's an aptitude test. If you don't meet the other criteria, you can look at completing a 30-minute multiple choice test that's focused on numbers there and seeing how you go with that. Cool. Just in the chat here, thanks for the message, Mallory. We'll get to that after. If you can, as a reminder, everyone, please ideally put in the Q&A function, please, rather than the chat. If you've got questions for Arthur or myself, Danielle, I will repeat the entry criteria at the end. We'll keep rolling at the moment with our conversation with Arthur. So you've made the decision, you want to upskill, you feel you need to do some further study. Why did you land on this program?
Because this program also provided the space and the framework to look at my career as well. Um, when I'm sort of reflecting on the course and coming into this Q&A, I think the way I would sort of summarize it is that put career accelerator in your mind first and data analytics afterwards. This is for people, in my opinion, who want to, they're starting your career and you want to give yourself a boost. You've had a few false starts and you want to maybe look at what went wrong and try and reorientate it. Or maybe you're deeper in and you're pretty confident with the fact you want to change careers, but you just want to have a bit of like support to do that. you're either one of those three things, and you also have an interest in data analytics. I've heard of people having done the course who they get a few weeks in and they go, "This is not for me. I just wanted to learn coding." That's great. Like, no worries. This course probably isn't for you. I got a lot out of it because I was looking at both the career sort of debrief and also the data analytics stuff.
Yeah. And you're the ideal student. When we won't, we try to not enroll people in the program where the outcomes for that individual don't align. I mentioned at the top, we're a careers first program. We want to help each individual achieve their meaningful career outcome. That's the goal. So, on that topic, Arthur, what have you achieved since completing?
Yeah, so since completing, I moved to Australia and I managed to get a job with a pretty good company, I would say, very quickly. It's widely regarded, it's pretty reputable. I'm a business analyst for a company called Journey Beyond, and I look at pricing and availability of different fare types. So practically speaking, that's a lot of SQL, a bit of Python, a lot of Excel, deeper stuff in Excel as well with things like Power Queries and pulling things together like that and sort of models and different tools we use. There's additionally a lot of liaising with non-technical stakeholders, which this course looks at as well, and how to achieve that part of sort of data analytics and being an analyst where you can actually communicate things. Um, yeah, and I think, having come to a new country, even though I'm from here originally, it was a new country ostensibly for me because I've been in UK for 20 years. To get a job very quickly like that, that was a big achievement for me, and it wrapped up my 2024 goals quite nicely.
Yeah, big congratulations. Great effort. I want to hone in on a point you mentioned there. And to be clear, and you can attest to this, the program is a technical program. There's a lot of focus on the
Mm,
technical skills required in data analytics. And when we speak to a lot of people, there is an assumption that that's just what you need to be successful in a career in data.
mm.
That's not necessarily the case. And that's why there is a focus in the program of putting all of that technical learning in the context of business scenarios, situations, so that you develop your human skills, your soft skills throughout. Um, what level of importance has that held for you then once you've actually landed the role that you wanted?
Yeah, no, it's been key. I would say that, you know, I've always had what I feel is quite decent people skills. So to me, that wasn't too hard to exhibit, when I stepped back into, I guess I'll call it the real world, back into a paid job. Um, if I sort of look at the employer project, and I know we'll touch on this a bit later in this Q&A, yeah, that was huge. Like, you can derive insights all you want, but if you can't then put them across or work in a team or, have the sort of emotional intelligence to step back sometimes and say, you know what, like, even though maybe I want to do what you're doing, go ahead and do it yourself and sort of work together. Um, you won't get very far. I think, how does it go? Like, uh, you can achieve great things if you don't care who gets the credit or something like that. So definitely the people skills are they're a massive component of this.
Yep. And so, a good little segue into the employer project, which is the final project of the program for the students. Um, I know there's obviously some privacy things with certain project partners of ours, but whatever you're able to disclose, just at a high level of your experience, what was the project? Who did you work
Hmm.
with? Yeah, what did you take away from it?
Yeah, so I didn't have an NDA, so I'm pretty able to talk about it completely. I did the Bank of England project, and we basically did a sentiment analysis. I was a team leader as well. That was something because I also wanted to lean into and get that sort of leadership experience. I was pretty keen to get that, and I had a great team. Um, so yeah, we did a sentiment analysis on the speeches issued by the Bank of England over the last 27 years. And the brief was pretty much like model this against key economic indicators and essentially produce something insightful for us, give us a bit of analysis essentially on how they work, what they're doing, and whether they can sort of give an insight into where the market is going. Um, I suppose, in the presentation we did, one of the things that really landed well with them was a graphic on. Let me actually step back a sec and just explain sentiment. I won't sort of give an exhaustive summary of the project, but it was looking at the speeches they'd issued and how positive or strong or weak or negative or uncertain the sentiment in that speech was. And things like around the 2008 recession and economic crisis, you can see that uncertain sentiment goes up because we don't know what's going to happen. But yeah, one of the graphics that really landed well with them was uncertain sentiment crashes as the Lehman Brothers collapses, which is counterintuitive, but it's expressing certainty in a negative situation. And that's changed completely in line with them lowering interest rates. And that was to them was like, great, we can see how we've got a hard control at the bank where we physically will change interest rates down in tandem with a soft control of our rhetoric that we're putting out. And that right there shows, how the bank operates. We aim to be cohesive between the two of them. We do things together. So yeah, we pretty much had free rein to look into it. We had a initial session with them where we presented initial insights. There's a bit of challenge because they said, "Hey, could you just dial it back a bit? You're being perhaps a bit too ambitious." We went back to the drawing board, and yeah, we came up with something in the end. They're pretty happy with it, and it was a great experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's really, really great insights. One of the things that prospective students ask about the most are examples, and that's a really good one. And if we think about the return on investment for people that are on here and considering study, um, that's a perfect example where Arthur's gone, not only wanted to take the ownership of being the team lead, but then, when you go and apply for those roles, you can use those as tangible examples to an employer. So there's that direct ROI that you're getting from the experience to hopefully help you land that role.
Mm.
Some good
And
questions.
do you mind if I just jump on the back of that? I said to my team as well, like where I'm looking to go with this is, what story do you want to tell future employers when you apply in 3 months? How can we all make that happen organically now? Like, you'll stretch if you want to, you can stretch the truth to an employer later on and say, I did this, I did that. But while we're here right now, why don't we just make it happen for real? Like, if you want to say in 3 months' time, I used Python and SQL to do this and I produced this and this was the outcome, let's do it. Like, feel free to take the lead on that and we'll make it happen for each other.
Brilliant. I think I'd like you as my team lead. Which is good. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Always jump in if you've got anything additional. Some questions are coming through. I appreciate that. Just another reminder, please put it in the Q&A function. I've got a couple more questions that I'm going to ask Arthur, and then we'll get to your questions momentarily. Spoken about the employer project. What about the career coaching? You spoke about the importance of looking at a program that will kind of support you holistically. What was the benefit? What did you think? How did they help you in the end?
Mm. Careers coaching was great. It definitely was useful for me in the sort of networking stuff and the LinkedIn stuff. I'd always sort of regarded that as a bit like cringe and underhand to try and promote yourself. Um, but unfortunately, like that is just the way it is. That's what you've got to do. I think in a lot of ways, um, you really just have to say like, I know what I'm talking about and create a personal brand that says, I know what I'm talking about. Because if you don't, people will believe you. So it's a real band-aid that I had to rip off. And if anyone's listening and they're thinking that's me, like feel free to ask your careers coach, hey, can we look at this? And they'll help you with that. Or you can say, hey, here's another issue I've got. Please can we look at this? Having done a careers coaching course separate to the Career Accelerator, I know it is quite expensive. So I really found that the, total cost in the Career Accelerator program, it was good value, when packaged all together with the learning as well. So again, if you're someone that doesn't want to have that, then by all means, maybe this is not the course for you. But if you're someone who does, like that's the value it can add to you.
Yeah, and it's important. It's not a one size fits all. You're all going to have unique pain points and gaps and things that you want to solve. So, understand that generally for the majority of your circumstances and situations, the coaches, it's executive style. So they'll structure their support around the topics in the areas that you want to focus on. That's most important because all of your goals are quite unique. There's a couple of questions coming through here, and I was going to ask anyway, so let's get it out of the way. But when you were studying, were you working at all? Firstly, just give us a background of your situation, and then, yeah, what was the kind of hours per
Yeah.
week you're doing? How did you incorporate it into your routine?
Yeah, good question. I was really, really fortunate that I was able to go down to 3 days a week at work at the time. So I spent Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday going, to my 9 to 5 job, and I had Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to study. I think when I started, the recommended hours was between 15 and 25. I always beat 25. Um, I I think I probably spent on average around like 27 maybe a week on it. And that is not including the sort of adjacent, I forget the names of the modules. There are some sort of career related ones that are not like termed as such. They're open resources you can get on whenever you want or ignore them completely. Um, for me, I thought, let's be honest, it's an expensive course. I wanted to get as much as I could squeeze out of it as possible. So I did every single thing I could possibly touch. Um, that to me was well over 25 hours a week. Um, Other people on the course, they, sort of skip through and that's their journey and that's fine to do for them. For me, it was about 25, 26, 27. I would say like depending on your individual circumstances, if you can work a few days a week and study, that works, but it's a real like it fills up your calendar. Maybe you don't have time to see your friends as much, or if you're in a relationship, it can be a bit tricky. Um, if you've got the bandwidth to be completely unemployed, that's great. But at the same time, maybe you need a bit of pressure to give yourself accountability. Um, Trust your instinct and you know in your heart which one you are. So yeah, go with that. But definitely you get out as much as you put in, and the more you put in, it's exponentially, you'll get more out of it. So my advice would be to lean into the sort of 25-hour point.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting because some of the people that were enrolled, just from a pure like a data perspective, the majority of the students would be working full time alongside this. Then there's individuals like Arthur that are doing a blend, and then there's to a lesser extent people that have got the capabilities to just solely focus on this. It's whatever's best for your circumstances. We do our best to make it suitable for people working full time employment, but as Arthur said, you need to be able to hit the average hours per week. What we would be recommending is around that 20. There's recommended learning, as Arthur highlighted, and then there's kind of more the optional side. And so, again, depending on the type of experience you want and the level of depth you want to go into, that's where you can do additional hours. We do allow access to the content 6 months after completing. So there's, working towards deadlines and trying to complete it in time and get the most out of it. You can revisit the content afterwards as well. Um, let's talk
Just
about
one
some of
thing
the.
to add on that, there's the live session as well. And that's I think for me it was like in UK 7 p.m. or 9 a.m. or something like that. I think on a Thursday.
Yep.
So yeah, depending on like if you're the type of person, it's recorded, but like if you want to be there on time, 9 a.m., here are my questions that I've done this content. I didn't understand X, Y, and Z. You're not going to be able to do that if you're working on the Thursday, obviously.
Yep. Yeah, so there's been a little bit of a shift from it now. We aim to do lunch times, so between either a 12 or 1 to accommodate for people that are working as best as possible. Everything is recorded. And we have now since, I don't know if you had this or not, Arthur, but we've included now an extra live session per week, which is a drop-in Q&A. Did you have those?
I think I did, yeah.
Yeah, so you'll have two. You've got a session that's focused on the weekly content, and then more of a drop-in Q&A where you can come in and ask whichever you like. On that topic, let's talk about the support other than the career coaching. So your facilitators that provide the academic support, your student success manager, and even if your peers were helpful as well.
Mm. So yeah, in my memory, the facilitator and the success manager, the help they gave me sort of blended into one, but I can speak to both. Yeah, you've kind of got your careers coach, which is a separate sort of advice they can give you over there, but the success manager and the facilitator, one-on-ones, how are you doing? Here's what, have you done this? You can sort of touch base with them and soundboard about how you're gonna do this aspect of your project. They can maybe give you advice and push you in this direction or that direction. They can't give you, the answers or exactly what to do, but they can definitely tell you who to go to, what to maybe look at, and really assist you to, yeah, it's coming back to me now. Really assist you to make sure you're meeting the criteria that you're being marked against. So, yeah, you're not sort of left if you're not, as familiar with presentations or analytics or um, problem statements or breaking things down like that. They can really assist you with fitting that framework and delivering your deliverables. You're not just completely off you go, deliver something good in 6 weeks. Um, See you then, sort of thing. You're really supported throughout.
And what about the engagement with your peers? One of the things I always
Mm,
speak about is with it being an LSE program, there's an expectation of the type of caliber of person in there, and our cohorts generally span up to around 100 students. I always think when talking to prospective students about networking, like one of the easiest ways and the quickest ways you can start to network and engage is with your peers. So, whilst it's fully online, what sort of interaction did you have with them? Have you built great relationships? Talk a bit about that.
yeah, so I think you get in the Q&A sessions and in the live lectures, people ask their questions at the end, and over time you get the sort of same people speaking up. Um, I try to be one of those people, and you might get your WhatsApp group chat, or you might get a different sort of space where you know, buddy up and ask people questions. And some people went to the library on the LSE campus. I don't have it anymore, but we got like a little library card where you can go in physically and have that space. I found that my best connections were in my employer project, and those people, we message still from time to time. Um, they were great support at the time. I think especially the employer project was when it really coalesced for me that like, because we were working on the same thing continuously for like I think 4, 5, 6 weeks. Whereas in the other few courses, people sort of go at their own pace, and maybe some people will hold off for a week and then blast through. Other people blast through at the start. I don't know how they did that, but so they did. And other people like me were more like, no, on week one I do week one, on week two I do week two. I'm not going to burn myself out or save it for the last minute. Um, but yeah, definitely in the seminars and the Q&As, it's likely that someone's going to ask a question that you're thinking and you're like, oh, I don't want to, am I going to be, it's, it sounds silly, but like, am I going to seem silly or stupid for like asking this? But someone else who's maybe a bit more outgoing will ask it. And, you know, it's a good space for it. And then you can, a lot of the times I'd maybe message that person and say, like, yeah, thanks for asking that. Or, where did you get that? Like, I was struggling with this. What did you do for that? So, yeah, it's definitely just because it's remote, it's definitely not like an insular, isolated experience. I did find it quite collegiate. Um, and yeah, just with like real university, it was the last year slash last course that, I really got a good group and yeah, but everyone's experience is different. I would definitely say it's coming to me now, so I'll say it. Um, Make note of those people throughout the first three uh, modules or courses that you would like to work with in your employer project, because you will be asked. They will say like, "Hey, is there anyone you would like to work with slash maybe wouldn't like to work with?" It's good to have that sort of that knowledge, and have a few people on your shortlist. Uh, and in order to potentially be on their shortlist too, you need to have spoken to them beforehand and get to know them and show to them that you're going to contribute and be a willing learner. Um, Full disclosure, I had a great employer project, but as a lead, I was also in meetings with other leads where we sort of talked about their experiences, and some people really struggled. Other teams had people who weren't contributing and were incredibly difficult, which is which is a valuable experience in and of itself. That's life, worst case scenario, you go to your interview in a month or two after that, and they say, "Tell us about a time that you've had a bad team member," and you've got a perfect story to give. So it's not a complete loss, um, but just something to bear in mind and be aware of.
Yeah, great insight. That's working life, isn't it? Not everyone has the same level of motivations, and it's how you manage different personalities. Um, but I think all very useful advice. Like a lot of what you've displayed, one of the things here is that we, as best as possible, tried to give you, the students, the opportunities um, to network, to engage, the support that you have. But Arthur's a great example of someone who's taken ownership himself and is putting himself out there and making sure that he's utilizing what's in front of him. So for anyone that does do the program, remember that the support's there, but you're the person that has to drive it for yourself. Let's jump in. We're halfway, so let's get into the questions. All right, so we'll go through these. We'll be jumping all around the place, Arthur, but let's go. So one here from PJ Stock. Do employers, especially in tech or finance industry, generally recognize and know the course? I can speak to that a bit, but what has the general reaction been from potential employers? So I think from your experience, how was the program received?
So, from my experience, I did a program which is affiliated with a British university, and then I immediately moved to Australia. And I don't think anyone. I did worry that like people are going to look at it and be like, yeah, but that's just a course of the university. Um, the general outcomes that I had for myself and that I've seen for other people who stayed in the UK are that yeah, there was no like it was neither perceived as illegitimate nor was it perceived as wow, this is the best thing ever. It was just perceived as valid experience and I think really they care about what skills can you demonstrate. Can you sit in an interview and give a good accounting of yourself? Um, and then all the other things that they want to interview. Good cultural fit. Um, is this the sort of person, have they got a vision for themselves? Can they turn up on time? Like, there's so much more to it than it's not just going to come down to like, oh, you did some work experience via a, um, you know, learning program. Um, so yeah, if you're worried about its validity or its perception, don't worry about that. I haven't experienced that. No one I know experienced that.
Yeah. Uh, as simply put, you're receiving the backing of the LSE name and brand. So there's obviously value in that at the front end, in possibly opening opportunities to network and or get the interview in the first place. But then once you're in that interview, it's rather looking at being able to showcase the skills you've obtained, and all of the things that Arthur spoke about. So yeah, that's great insight. PJ, when you asked around, especially in tech or finance, they would be probably two of the largest industries that our students move into. Wouldn't suspect there's any challenges with that at all. To note as well, we are announcing soon a formal pathway. So anyone that completes a 6-month career accelerator, so including alumni like yourself, Arthur, can have the opportunity. There'll be one further academic capstone, and if you complete that, you could graduate with a formal postgraduate certificate from the LSE. So we're looking at that in 2025. There'll be communications coming out with details, but for people that do complete and in the future want to return or feel like they need that, that's going to be a great opportunity, and it's the first time LSE's done it. Hao Liang, your question, this is a career coaching program. No, but career coaching is a significant part of it should you want to utilize it. Career coaching occurs all throughout the program alongside your learning experience. You'll complete 4 projects, and that's how you learn all of the in-demand skills and technologies.
Yeah, just to jump on the end of that, completely agree with what Josh said, but imagine you have an interest in data analytics, but you've always blown it in an interview. You would learn the analytics in this course, and you would say to your careers coach on the side, meeting once a week or however often you do it, that's up to you. Hey, can we just look at interviews? Because I just can't deliver in an interview. And then that's how that would work. It would be a separate thing completely, but it's just a different space for you to lean into some, fix issues you've got, whatever they may be about. Even if your CV is terrible, you can just look at your CV with your careers coach. And they can say, oh, you've got all these skills, but you haven't showcased them here. That's what it's for.
Perfect example. Mallory, we'll stick on the theme of career coaching. You've spoken a little bit already, Arthur, so just fill in the gaps here. But Mallory's asked, how does the career coaching work? How often were you meeting? And what was the biggest gain from the coaching for you?
Yeah. Sorry. So the first one was again, remind me?
How does it work?
How
The
does it
career
work?
coaching.
Okay. The career coaching was like video sessions one-on-one with your careers coach. I think there may have been a pre-fill out form to do beforehand, just to say, here's kind of what I want to get out of this, and then they can prepare their materials accordingly and have a bit of a expectation of what to get out of you or what to give you. We met, I think we get 6 sessions, is that correct, Josh? To use over the period of the course. That was right, yeah. So you can say, I want to front load these, or I want to put them at the back end. For me, I already knew I was moving to another country and I was going to apply for jobs. And I sort of thought, okay, let's put these on the back burner a little bit because I'm going to want to look at like interviews and LinkedIn and CVs and stuff. So you can decide the periodicity between your coach and yourself. And yeah, you just decide what you want to work on. I decided I want to work on my LinkedIn. I think previously it was like, if I may say so myself, I think it looks quite nice right now. But previously, it was very bland. It was a sort of generic, uh, fill out as minimal details as possible, and then never look at LinkedIn ever because it makes you feel anxious or nervous or whatever. Um, and now I'm in a space where I've become one of those people who meets someone and says, "Oh, hey, yeah, let's connect on LinkedIn." Um, and it's a good tool. Like it's not like doom scrolling on any other sort of social media. It's you get good stuff out of it. I've got good data science and analytics stuff on pages that I've looked at, and some funny stuff and interesting insights. So yeah, just I guess sort of creating a personal brand you can look at. That's sort of how you want to be and what sort of you want to present yourself as in the job market. Um, yeah, and if you don't even know what you want to discuss with your careers coach, they will have the tools to discuss with you and help you discover what you need or you should be looking at. Um, I think one of the first things I didn't do it, we did it in this course, but I also did it in my other careers coaching, was create like a compass or like a value system thing. I know this sounds very sort of woo woo and hippie sort of stuff, but you have your career values and there are things that some people are happy working in a bank, but some people hate it. Some people would love to work for a charity and other people would hate it. And what really sucks is when you don't know and you can sense you're upset in your career and things are going wrong, but you don't know why. Um, this is a really good tool for that. So that's what the careers coach probably at the start would look at with you.
Great. Thanks for that. To add, what we've actually looked to implement for this upcoming intake. So February 10th is something called outcomes-based career coaching. So as a standard, you normally get 6 one-on-one sessions, and then there's content you can access in the virtual learning environment. If you haven't achieved your intended goal after those 6 sessions, we will allow you to utilize more sessions. So basically up for 6 months after completing the program. So 12 months in total from when you start. The intent is that if you need to utilize additional sessions to achieve that goal, you're able to do so. Again, we want to see as many people as possible achieving that outcome. So, Celine, what does the life coaching involve? Obviously, talking about the career coaching, I think we've covered that enough. Um, what is the frequency of meeting career coaches on a monthly basis? And based on previous experience, how productive is that concluded to be? We've covered that. Up to 6 sessions. Arthur, you can jump in here. You can essentially utilize them however you need. If you wanted to go one per week for the first 6 weeks, or you want to stagger them, it's dependent on you and the time frame you have for your outcomes. Yeah, nothing else to add on that unless you do. Raphael, I have already a full-time job, many hours per day. Does this program need to have um, a good leading? So essentially, you're asking the hours required. So on average, a minimum of 20 hours. If you want to talk specifically about your circumstances and how it could work, book a time with your enrollment advisor and have a chat. We have a study time calculator you can look at, and or we can guide you on when in the future it might be realistic for you if it isn't right now.
Just to jump in on that, there were all sorts of people on the course. There were people who were like unemployed. There were people who were like incredibly highly paid, high functioning in a different career space. They only had a few hours on the weekends, Saturday and Sunday to look at it. I don't know how they like to me that's a lot to take on. But it is possible. There's lots of different people doing it lots of different ways, but yeah, back up what Josh said. Speak to the advisor.
Yeah, some of the busiest people that we've enrolled have ended up not only completing but excelling. So everyone's different in terms of the level of motivation and you mentioned earlier, Arthur, some people like the adrenaline and the pressure that comes with juggling multiple things. So again, have a chat to us. We can understand your circumstances and see what's realistic. Have you had any employer projects in the area of sustainability and sustainable management? Look, off the top of my head, I don't know. One that comes to mind, and I must be clear, I'm not privy to every single project due to NDAs. I really only know the partners. But Anna, I'll have a look into that for you, and I can reach out via email if we have. Will this course help to achieve a career in health data industry? Yes, absolutely. It's not isolated to a certain industry. The skills are transferable. And then it's dependent on what your previous background is and yeah, what sort of industry and role you want to get into that is realistic. Does it sound about right, Arthur?
Yeah, that sounds right. Just to jump, sort of add to that, if you wanted to get into health data and health data analytics, I think like it would be perfectly reasonable to do this course, do your employer project, then in your own time do a project on health data. You'll have the skills and the confidence by then to put together something quite coherent and add it to your portfolio, um, which you'll create as part of the things with your careers coach. Then when you're applying to said jobs and companies in that industry, you can then have a completely relevant project to highlight and say, hey, here's what I did. Here's my insights I got. It doesn't matter that like the project you did in your own personal time was never presented in a real world scenario or presented to anyone at all. It can still say, yeah, here's what I found. Um, Realistically, I think a hiring manager would respect the initiative and the interest, and they'd look at it and they'd say, yeah, look, candidate A hasn't got anything tangible and candidate B has. And that's the leverage that you have.
Yep, spot on. Does the career coaching come to an extra cost? No, everything that we've spoken about is included in the course fees, total course fees. Good one from Lena here. Arthur, could you please share some tips when looking for your first job as a data analyst? Just in your experience, what are some tips?
Yeah, I'd say use LinkedIn a lot. Or what I would say is research the tools of specific relevance in the geographical location you're applying to. So what I mean by that is I was applying a lot to jobs I found via LinkedIn, but I was moving to Australia and I was looking in Australia. And a lot of things highlighted there are Melbourne and Sydney based, where I didn't live. And it took me a while to realize, like, oh, it doesn't quite work that way here. There are quite a few Australian specific job boards and stuff that um, highlight jobs in different geographical locations. Um, so yeah, I'd say step one is to sort of fine tune your search criteria. If you're in London, gosh, I guess I would say you wanna tailor your CV according to what you're applying to with the skills that they're asking for. Um, and then yeah, I guess interview prep, technical interviews, and sort of talking through the thought process of how to solve a problem. Um, I sort of got over the process of applying to jobs a few months ago, so I've sort of put all of that in a box out of my mind for the minute. So I'm sorry I can't give you better advice. But I do recall that the course has a lot on job searches and on interviews and on CVs. So there's specific content in there for that. Um, that would be a good place to start. Setting a plan, here's the goal, here's the small plan, the small sub goals I'm going to achieve to get to the big goal, specifically for a data job. So that's there.
Great, thank you. I say this tongue in cheek, Lena, but some good advice would be to do the course. But no, book a time and have a chat to an EA. But yeah, certainly we support a lot of students that are looking at obtaining their first role. Raymond, is this a course that employers often pick up the fees for? Or does it depend on the benefit to the employer of the course? Every intake, we have students that are on employer sponsorship. Yep, of course, it's all dependent on relevance, budget, all of those things. But we always have a pool of students that are obtaining employer sponsorship. Book a time. Let's have a chat about your circumstances, what's realistic, and we have some resources we can provide to you to give to your employer should you want to go down that path. Raphael, after finishing the program, could we land an internship in London? Yes, of course. The intent is to have your job ready to land a full-time role, ideally upon completion, but dependent on your background, your circumstances, and all those things. So, again, recommendation there to book a time. Here's a good one for you, Arthur. So my name is Laurel with 15 years of accounting background. I'm thinking of changing my career path into data analysis. Do you think this is a nice idea for me? For this, the overarching theme is all about transferable skills and the importance of those. Talk a little bit about that.
Accounting, yeah. So I do think it would be a good idea. But I think a good place to start is to really ask yourself what your vision is. What do you want to do and why? What's going to make you happy? I'm not sure where you live in the world. If money is what you want to pursue, you need to look at obviously the salaries, but you know, you get paid once a fortnight or once a month, and for the rest of the time you're doing the thing. Do you want to be a data analyst? Are you someone who gets satisfaction out of problem solving? That'd be the first thing I sort of ask myself. Um, as far as transferable skills, you're obviously very good with numbers, so that'll be good. I assume your stats are probably pretty decent, and that's really good to have for the course. Um, look, one of my best friends on the course, he was a ski instructor in Japan. He wanted to come and do this course, and he did it, and now he's a data analyst in London. Um, it it's if you want to change careers, you want to change, and this is a good course to help you manage that transition. Um, but he decided I want to be a data analyst, and this is why he went for it. Um, make sure you're pretty certain on that before you enroll, because I said it a bit earlier. It's not a cheap course. The last thing you'd want is to spend the money and do it, and halfway through you sort of check out because you're not interested, and then you're not really wanting to be a data analyst afterwards. So yeah, just do a check-in with yourself and assess what you're sort of interested in your career. I obviously love it because I just in my own spare time for fun, I do this sort of thing. If you're the kind of person who does this in your spare time for fun, then yeah, by all means, I'd say it's a good idea.
I mean, in terms of finance, people coming from an accounting background, it would be one of the more common of individuals that we speak to and or people in the course. And there's we've got in the chat here. There's two. We've got Elodie, so you can hear her and watch her story from teacher to data analyst. She's actually now one of the kind of like the support course facilitators in the program. So she's joined us. She's had, I think, 3 job promotions now since completing. So have a listen to her story because she talks about especially the transferable skills that she had from a teacher that she didn't expect would be relevant as a data analyst. And then from ski instructor to data analyst, Arthur, the individual you spoke about, you can watch their AMA on YouTube in the chat as well. Celine, simple, straight question for you. Why did you choose to leave the UK, Arthur?
Uh, Probably not the forum for that. Yeah, I I was in the UK for 20 years. I came there when I was a kid, and there are a lot of reasons, but look, one of them was I always had a what if about going back home. Um, yeah, it's pretty rough up there right now, I'd say. Um, and having come to Australia, a lot of people here say, things aren't great either. But all I can say is that the sun's been shining here. I've got a good job and everyone's happy, and I increased my salary, and I go to the beach pretty frequently, and I go hiking in the hills. So there's definitely a lifestyle thing. But look, I was in London in my 20s, and in my 30s when I started a family, and I want to do that where I was born. So that's the short answer. You'd have to take me to the pub and buy me drinks all night for the rest.
I want to get over to Adelaide. No, but I can attest for the lifestyle as well here in Australia. It's a good reason. All right, we've got 6 more minutes or so. So let's get it. I'm going to kind of cherry pick some of the remaining ones, and I'll answer the rest that aren't necessarily so relevant for Arthur. Um, so anonymous attendee has posted, do I need to have prior knowledge on how to use Excel, SQL, or Python? I'll get your insight just from our end in terms of criteria. We just require a minimum level of exposure to Excel, ideally pivot tables. That's entry criteria. Arthur can talk to it from actually doing the program.
Yeah, no, pretty much what you said. I think I was quite good at Excel, and the Excel module it's very broken down about how to do some basic formulae, and I was like, gosh, this is going quite slowly. So if you have no exposure to it whatsoever, you'll be completely fine. It'll really sort of first principles show you how to do that. Same with SQL and Python. Before you even start the coding, there's like pages and chapters of, here's what a data frame is, and here is how you would manipulate this, or here's a quick little snippet of code to fill in all of the blank values in this column. It's a good pace, and you don't have to have any prior knowledge. I'd say if you literally have none, even with Excel, just if you can jump on a free version or jump on Excel and start playing around and get a feel for it. It'll be good for when you start the course. But yeah, no, it's there when you need it when you start. Nothing's assumed that's too complicated.
So Thomas, another question here was basically that question, is the program suitable for someone with no prior data analysis skills? Again, basic Excel, specifically pivot tables, will gain you entry if you don't meet previous other criteria. And as Arthur said, we start slow, we get you into it, and then you progress quickly into more complex areas. PJ is back again. So he's asked, how would you describe the course split between business skills, analytics, stakeholder management, and technical skills, SQL, Python, Excel? And then secondly, do you feel confident performing technical tests immediately after the course?
I'd say about 50-50 um, on the first question. Um, but also 100% of both. And yes, like pretty confident. Um, caveat, I did a STEM background. You know, I felt pretty confident explaining ideas to non-technical people and breaking it down in a way that they can digest it. Um, but completely authentically, you're going to have a few, at least four projects that you can speak about to future employers. You would have done a sort of mock presentation, just to sort of provide some context. In each course, you have a project, you'll produce some code and some slides and a video of you presenting those slides. To do that well, you're going to rehearse it a lot. You're going to be incredibly familiar with it. And by the end of it, you're going to be able to, anyone can ask any question in any which way, and you'll be able to say, yeah, here's what I did. Here's what this was. Oh, but how did you do this? Oh, when that happened, I did this. And this is the module I used for this problem in Python and whatever. Like, you're going to be very confident and have a lot to deliver afterwards.
Thank you. Two more questions, if you don't mind, Arthur. Really appreciate all of the time and your insight. It's been really great. Happy to hear here in the chat from Mallory that she's already registered and feeling excited. We're looking forward to having you on board in a couple of weeks, Mallory. Um, I hope when you're in there that Arthur's advice is echoing in your head as you start. Ali's asked a question here. So, did your prior experience play a role in securing your job after completing the course, or were you considered and hired as a beginner level data analyst?
Uh, Sorry, there's a cat just climbing this table. Did my prior experience, I think, does this person mean prior to the analytics course? Um, Goodness. I don't know. That would be up to my hiring manager. I think it all came into the mix. I definitely think, look, capacity, at the very minimum, capacity to learn, willingness to learn and capacity to learn, um, is pretty key. They're gonna want to know that. Look, my general sort of one person's opinion about this is that the economy globally right now is yes, but what else can you do? You know, um, by job title, I'm a business analyst right now, but when a problem comes up that requires generating thousands and thousands of lines of pricing data using Python in a script, I don't have to go, oh, I don't know, because I do know how it works. And when you press F5 and it doesn't run, I've got the capacity to debug it. Um, so yeah, I guess to that extent, they would have said, okay, this guy will be the right person to hire. Um, you may do this course and not end up exactly where you thought you were going to go, but you'll have skills to sort of complement wherever you do end up. So that's the value it definitely adds.
And again, it's fully dependent on your circumstances. So, one of the things your coaches will do is help you understand what transferable skills you have, maybe look at it from a different perspective of things that you've achieved that you didn't feel were relevant for the roles that you end up going for, and allowing you to showcase a combination of previous experiences plus what you learn in the program. So it's not one or the other, it's everyone's different. It'll be a combination. Some people are happy who are making a career shift going entry level, others aren't so much. The people that aren't, that's where you want to have some relevant previous skills to move into a role that's suitable for where you're at in your life. But your coaches will support you in understanding what is realistic. There's remaining questions here, but we are running out of time, so I'm going to have to try and answer some of these ones myself that aren't so relevant for Arthur. Before we let you go, again, thank you so much. But your top takeaway. So, reflecting on your experience and the full circle journey that you've had, what would be your top reason for recommending the Career Accelerator?
It's a really good framework to debrief on your career or to, you know, start your career on a sort of boosted boost your trajectory. Um, I'd say there are a lot of like career skills that I think people maybe get from their parents or their peers, and some people don't. If you happen to be the latter, like I think this is a really good space to learn those and pick those up and create a career plan and to understand where your career is going and not let it just happen to you. Take It's a good program for helping you take control of it. Um, Additionally, you're going to learn a lot about data and analytics. You're going to get confidence with different programs. Your careers coach sessions are great for overcoming limiting beliefs, creating personal brand. Um, yeah, it's well-rounded on the technical side and the people side. This is not a very succinct way of summarizing this up, but yeah, these are the key points I sort of hit on. The final thing I'd say on it is trust the process. Um, yeah, it's a good course. If you just follow it, if you did the hours, you'll get good results. Um, but yeah, feel free to shoot me a message on LinkedIn if you have anything else if it comes to you next week or next month. Well, I don't know when the enrollment deadline is, but yeah, I'm open book, so shoot us a message. I'm not hard to find.
Please do find Arthur on LinkedIn. I'll be disappointed if your notifications aren't blowing up after this. You've been great.
So will I.
Appreciate your insight. Thank you so much for joining us and have a lovely
Pleasure.
night.
Likewise. Take care. Good luck, everyone.
All right, also, we are over time, but I do want to try and answer some remaining questions. So we'll give it another 5-10 minutes to get through it. Again, click the link, book a time with your EA. They're all going to be able to answer these questions that are still remaining. All right, so what Celine's asked, what's the main difference between data analytics and data science? Sometimes I see a distinction, but sometimes I see data analytics referred to as simply a subcategory of data science. Yeah, people use the terms interchangeably. The way I describe it is data analysts are generally dealing with historical data. So you'll be given a business challenge or a question that needs answering, and you'll work with that data, analyze that data, and then present outcomes. So data analysts, you've got the technical side, you've potentially got the visualization side of data, and then the people management and the human skills. I'm generalizing here, obviously. And then data scientists are generally looking to predict the future. You go deeper into machine learning and AI. We cover introductory sides of that in this program. And it may be that you're just more focused on the technical side rather than some of those other areas. All right. Sorry, there's a fair few here I'm sifting through. You gave examples, this is from Anna, you gave examples of alumni embarking on new careers as data analysts. Do you have examples of people who use data analytics knowledge acquired to inform their existing work or practice? Yeah, absolutely. There are kind of three categories of people that do the program. You've got your career starters who are looking to land their first role in data. You've got, and they might make up 20 to 25%. You've got your career changers, so people that are, let's use the example of an accountant that's looking to move into a data analyst role. That would make up 40% or so, 40 to 50%. And then you've got your career advances, like that example, Anna. So people who understand the importance of data potentially in their current role or a role they want to move into, still within their field, and want to obtain the skills to perform better or further advance with their employer, whatever it may be. So very well equipped to support individuals like that as well. Yeah. Let's get through these. Give me one. We've got a couple more here. So what Mohammed's asked, what kind of projects on the portfolio would help most to land a job? Well, the 3 individual projects you complete, which align with 3 6-week courses, everyone's completing the same project. So you work through the content and then you submit your project. And then the employer project at the end will vary depending on the intake, depending on the employer project partner that you work with. As Arthur touched on, the topic of your project could be on something that's not relevant or linked to the industry or that you're working in, but you can still show the thinking and the logic. You can show the skills that you've obtained and then the way that you've analyzed data and then the thought process about the outcomes you've delivered. So that's where it can be really transferable. Okay, 1 or 2 more here. Okay, I don't think I have enough time to do the course now. Would it make sense to do the course on LSE data analytics for management first? So that's a 6 to 8 week course. We 4thRev, in partnership with LSE, deliver this 6-month career accelerator. That program is separate to this, so I'm not an expert on it. I'm aware of it at a high level. It's very much introductory. So if you are wondering if it's relevant data analytics or it's something you'd enjoy, you could do that. As Arthur highlighted, this is not the program you do to dip your toe in to see if you like it or not. This is the program you do to have meaningful impact and enter industry or further advance in your current career. Another question here, can we have access to a sample of the projects that we would have to deliver during the course? Yeah, the best thing is the course brochure. If you haven't downloaded the brochure, you can click that. If you are in our database already, I can't see who this was because it was anonymous attendee. Your enrollment advisor can send you course outlines that gives you detailed examples of what's covered in the curriculum and potentially examples of the project as well. What are the next intakes for this career accelerator and how frequent are they? February 10th is the next start of orientation, and we have 2 weeks of orientation. So ideally, applications officially close on the 3rd of February. But if we have spoken to you before and you've expressed interest, we can look to accept some late applications. That's dependent if all placements are filled or not. To give you insight, our last intake, we had record enrollment numbers of over 150. We're capping it around 110 this intake. So the sooner you can book a time, speak to an EA, and then demonstrate intent if you are looking to apply, the better. If you can't apply for this intake, we'll have an intake in April, July, and October. So there's 4 per year. PJ, are there, and I think, guys, this will probably have to be the final one. And then we will, again, I encourage you to reach out to your EA. We'll do some outreach to you, obviously, tomorrow in the coming day and the coming days from your EA as well, if you are in the system, just to see how you went. We can answer any further questions. But PJ, you asked, are there employer projects with NDAs and how does that impact talking about your experience? Yeah, there are employer projects with NDAs. So there's kind of specific details that are obviously removed, but you're still able to demonstrate the process you took, the outcomes you delivered, the sentiment and the results provided there. It's just not as not all of the specific details will have to be included in that. And to express on that, we haven't had issues with people doing the NDAs then having struggles with landing roles or demonstrating experience. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm sorry I couldn't get through everything, but we do have to wrap up. I I hope you enjoyed it, and some really great advice from Arthur in there. We will do everything we can to support you to achieve your goals. It ultimately lies on you to take that ownership and responsibility and use us as best as you can. Um, yeah, look forward to speaking to you or hearing about the EAs, having a chat with you. We'll keep an eye out as well, any enrollments that come up. Yeah, look forward to it. So thank you again, and I'll see you next time.